Mitch Bolinsky is the Republican candidate for the 106th District of the Connecticut House of Representatives. You can learn more about Mitch at his website, www.mitchfornewtown.com. But here are some highlights. Mitch, his wife, and 2 children have lived in Newtown for 12 years. He has been very engaged in Newtown activities. He has served as an Economic Development Commissioner, as a member of the Newtown Board of Ethics, and as a Justice of the Peace. He was elected to the Legislative Council in 2011, and he is also a former Cub Master. Mitch is a graduate of the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater with a degree in marketing. He has 25 years experience as a marketing professional, primarily in the automotive industry. So Mitch, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you very much, Gary. It's great to be here.
So let's just jump right into it. What do you think you can do for Newtown residents if you're elected to the state legislature?
Well, I hope to do a lot for Newtown residents when I'm elected. And I think basically the whole platform that I'm running on is that I've been involved in Newtown for 12 years. Ever since really the day that we arrived, I've been working and representing the families and trying to make things just a little bit better. So, without polarizing, in a political way, the easiest way to sum me up as a person is that I'm, responsive to my neighbors, responsive to the community, and I care. I've got community service, I've got local government experience, I've got a history of constituent service that goes back 12 years, and there are a lot of families, a lot of individuals in Newtown that recognize me for the way I get involved and the way I make things happen on their behalf.
So what do you think is the most significant state issue that our community here in Newtown faces?
That's an interesting question because there's actually about 7 answers to it.
Well, we'll go with one for now. Well, best one you can think of.
The first thing that we've got to do is we've got to restore the economic viability of Connecticut as a state. Now, locally, that doesn't resonate as loudly, for instance, as our over-reliance on property taxes. So I've already, taken your subject of one and turned it into 2. But the bottom line is, right now, Connecticut is a state with great history, with a great heritage, and with a wonderful bank of intellectual property. We've become very, very, very wasteful as a state, and I think that is hurting us as far as economic job creation, as far as having employers locate their businesses here in Newtown, or for that matter in Connecticut on a larger scale. So we really have to take a look at the entire formula of what it is that we're doing and how we're paying for things and how effectively we're using taxpayer resources, and just get the whole state back on track, which is going to be of benefit to Newtown.
So how do you approach something like that? It's a very large issue, hard to get your arms around, but how do you start addressing that?
My dad once told me that when you're looking at an issue that's absolutely monstrous in size, you have to think of it as an elephant, and you have to eat, ingest it one bite at a time. So if you break the problems down and you take a look at them from a micro standpoint, obviously we've got to focus in on the economic lack of comfort that I think that most Newtowners and all the residents of Connecticut are feeling right now. Unemployment's at an all-time high for Connecticut right now. And for the first time, we actually have an unemployment rate that's 1% higher than the national average. Usually Connecticut is insulated, and because of its intellectual property and because of its energy and because of its Yankee spirit, we typically have always been head and shoulders above the way the rest of the economy performs, but that's not the case right now. And I think to a very large degree, that's because of the waste that we've got in our government. And the fact is, well, to put it as bluntly as possible, in this state, I don't think we have a revenue problem. I think the problem we've got in our state is a spending problem. So coming back to the taxpayers time and again and increasing taxes, all that does is make for personal insecurity. All it does from an employer standpoint is make for financial uncertainty that puts jobs in jeopardy, and lets, those folks amongst us that are, productively working in jobs, it doesn't allow us to feel secure in those jobs, which means that the housing market slows down. If you're not comfortable and confident in the fact that your job is secure, are you going to go out and spend $40,000 putting an addition on your home, or are you going to, upgrade to another home, move to a different community? The answer to that is pretty well no. So when we look at the local economy and we look at all of the little factors that drive it, it all starts with, I think, a little bit of irresponsibility on the part of our state legislators in how they use our tax money. And the fact that we've become so incredibly reliant on property taxes on a local level in a community such as Newtown that demands a relatively high level of constituent service, it's become relatively costly to pay your property taxes, which is really a shot in the sitting down for seniors and anybody who's on a fixed income, not to mention those that are either unemployed or underemployed.
Right. So let's talk about property taxes for a minute. Do you think that we should continue to be relying on the property tax to raise revenues for education and municipal services? And if not, what other solutions might we have?
There's again, that's one of those take it one bite at a time things, but the absolute answer is no. Property taxes and our complete reliance on them in Connecticut, it's just out of hand. Now, we are a state of home ownership for the most part, and when we live in a town like Newtown, overwhelmingly we are homeowners. So the reliance on the property tax impacts everybody in town. But when you take a look at the way the rest of this country is working, Connecticut is the most or most property tax reliant economy in the country. And when you look at local issues and you look at our local economy here in Newtown, as a member of the Legislative Council, working with Pat Lodra and John Court's on the Board of Finance and all that, it's very difficult to balance the needs of our community against taxation when the only component of taxes that the local government can control are property taxes. All the other taxes that we pay as Connecticut residents, which are sizable, are controlled by state statute and outside of the realm of our control. Even, real estate conveyance taxes, which is something that Connecticut allows Newtown to collect a portion of, our share of that is even controlled by state statute and limited. So when something needs to be done in Newtown, well, the property tax and the homeowner are where the rubber meets the road. So, boy, you asked a simple question. I gave you a complex answer.
Complex issue. There's no really simple solution, but just got to roll up your sleeves and figure it out.
Well, it's an issue that, as I go door to door and as I meet with my constituents in District 3, and who the rest of Newtown, whom I hope will also be constituents after November 6th, everybody is asking me, what can we do to control local property taxes? With the exception of one door that I knocked on in the borough about 3 weeks ago, where where the gentleman opened the door and said, "Listen, I'm a higher tax guy, and I don't think that we pay our fair share. So if you're here selling the Republican Bill of Goods, you're on the wrong doorstep." But with the exception of that one gentleman, every single other person in town is begging me to take a look at the local property tax and its burden, particularly our seniors. Everybody's got a horror story about somebody moving out of town because they could no longer afford to live in Newtown. And I love this town. I want to retire here, and I want to be able to afford to retire here. We owe it to everybody that has made this town as wonderful as it is to give them the opportunity to stay here. and enjoy the fruits of their labor rather than become fixed income and shoved out the door.
So, to sum it up, Mitch, why should Newtown residents vote for you on Election Day?
Newtown residents should vote for me on Election Day because I care and because, well, I make things happen. I listen to my constituents. I listen to my friends, my neighbors. I have conversations with people at Carmenucci's. I have conversations with people at Bagel Delight. Wherever it is I'm in town, or for that matter in Danbury or Southbury or wherever I am, I'm speaking with people on a regular basis about what it is that's important to them and what do they think we should do about it. Because if you stop, step back, and listen, you find that you're very rarely the smartest guy in the room. There are people out there with wonderful ideas if you're willing to listen. And as a person who's been in marketing for 25 years and responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars worth of budgets and has always delivered a balanced budget, one of the things that I've done to be successful as a marketing person has been able to digest all of the information coming in from every direction and build it into a marketing research type model, which in essence has allowed me over the course of my career to launch hundreds of successful new products, and even change the law. In my last corporate marketing assignment, I was in government relations, and I was brought into an industry that about 3 weeks after I became employed within that industry, the state of California made our products illegal. They could not be sold. And here I am as the director of marketing for a $135 million company, wondering, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? So we changed my hat, and I stopped being the director of marketing for 2.5 years, and I became the director of government relations. And the first stop was the airport and a plane to Sacramento, California, to negotiate with the California Air Resources Board, the Environmental Protection Agency from Washington, D.C., and all of these community groups and all these environmental groups. And after what had been 8 years of everybody throwing darts at one another, I was successful bringing all of these divergent parties that really didn't like one another to the same table, and then using research, we actually defined the environmental impact and the socioeconomic impact on residents, and changed the law. In the process, creating an industry-first recycling program, which I gave birth to. And it was landmark legislation, referred to as landmark legislation by by Governor Schwarzenegger in California and by Mary Nichols, the chairman of the California Air Resources Board. So much so that a page and a half of the laws that I had changed and helped write in California went into national legislation and were both on the floor of the House and the Senate as portions of clean energy acts. So from a legislative standpoint, I really know how to take what the citizens say they need and turn it into something that works for them.
Mitch, that's great, and we're going to end on that note. That was a fantastic example of what you might do as if elected to the state legislature.
Thank you very much.
So thank you for being here today.
Gary, it's been my pleasure, and everybody out there, I'm running on November 6th to represent you. I'm going to represent every single one of you with honor, integrity, and passion, and I would love to have your vote. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mitch.